coward, despicable garbage. Those were the words that filled the Kent County Circuit courtroom early Thursday morning.
He just doesn't know what he's done to our family, what he's done to me.
The day that I found out she was gone, I felt like my legs collapsed.
I had just graduated college last year in Western Michigan. You don't know how much it tore me that my number one supporter was not there that day.
Alicia Lofton's dad, aunt, and daughter got the chance to address Marcus Lofton, her killer.
Why is this my first introduction to you as a person?
I want you to close your eyes for a moment and picture a quiet neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia. Imagine the kind of street where children play on weekends, where neighbors wave to each other in the mornings, where life feels ordinary, safe, even. Now imagine that on one particular morning, that peace is shattered by the sound of gunshots. That is exactly what happened on the morning of September 14th, 2023. Atlanta police received several emergency calls reporting gunshots near a home on Peyton Road, SW. When officers arrived, they found 38-year-old Sandra Okafor lying on the grass just outside her front door. She had been shot multiple times in her head and her body. She was unresponsive, and she never woke up again. Witnesses told police that moments before officers arrived, a man had driven away in a dark red SUV. That vehicle, they said, belonged to Sandra's estranged husband, a man named David Okafor. David was not at the scene, but he would not stay free for long. Police found him later that same day, walking just a few blocks away, and took him into custody. But here is the detail that stopped everyone cold. The detail that turned this tragedy into something even harder to understand. Just 24 hours before Sandra was killed, just one single day, she had handed David divorce papers. She had made a decision to leave. She had taken the legal step to protect herself, to start over, to survive. And less than 24 hours later, she was gone. This is Sandra's story. And I need you to really hear it, not just as a crime case, not just as a set of facts, but as the story of a real woman who deserved so much better. A woman who tried to do the right thing. A woman who was let down by the very circumstances that were supposed to protect her. Let's go back to the beginning. Sandra and David Okafor got married in February 2023. By most accounts, their courtship had been short. And from what family members would later tell investigators, something had felt off about David from early on. Some of Sandra's loved ones had expressed concern, that quiet, uncomfortable feeling you get when something doesn't sit right, even if you can't fully explain why. But Sandra was in love. And sometimes when we love someone, we find ways to explain away the things that worry us. We tell ourselves it's going to be fine. We stay. Within a few months of the wedding, the relationship began to fall apart. Not slowly, quickly. By May 2023, just 3 months after they were married, David was arrested on domestic violence charges. The victim was Sandra. As a result, a court issued a personal protection order, what most people call a restraining order, legally forbidding David from contacting her. Let that sink in for a moment. 3 months into their marriage, Sandra had already been hurt enough that the courts had to step in and legally tell her husband to stay away from her. But Sandra wasn't done fighting for her freedom. She didn't just wait and hope things would get better. She took action. She began the formal legal process of divorce. She gathered the paperwork. She worked with the system. She did everything right. In August 2023, she officially served David with divorce papers, a step that told him, clearly and legally, that this marriage was over. She was trying to get out. She was trying to live. What happened next is something that advocates for domestic violence survivors have been warning about for years. The moment a person tries to leave, truly formally leave, is often the most dangerous moment of all. Because for some abusers, the idea of losing control is unbearable. And that unbearable feeling can become something terrifying. For Sandra, that terrifying thing came the very next morning. It was the morning of September 14th, 2023. Just hours after Sandra had served David with those divorce papers, David returned to the home. He had a court order telling him to stay away. He came anyway. According to police reports and statements that would later be used in court, an argument started inside the house. These things often begin that way, with words, with anger, with a conflict that seems like it might just be another fight. But it escalated fast. During the argument, David got hold of Sandra's own firearm, a handgun she kept in a drawer. In interviews with detectives, David later claimed that the gun went off accidentally while he was trying to hit her with it. Investigators recorded this as the moment the violence crossed a deadly line. Sandra ran. That tells you everything you need to know about what kind of person she was. Even in that moment, even with fear coursing through her, she didn't give up. She ran to a bedroom. She locked the door. She was trying to get out. She made it to the window. But David forced the door open. What happened next is documented in police affidavits and medical examiner reports. David fired his weapon at Sandra as she tried to climb out of that window, trying to escape, trying to survive. He fired 15 times. 15 shots. Police found Sandra's body outside the house, just below the window she had been trying to climb through. The medical examiner confirmed multiple gunshot wounds. Sandra Okafor, 38 years old, mother, daughter, sister, was gone. After the shooting, David walked out of that house, got into his dark red SUV, and drove away. Witnesses described the vehicle. Officers tracked it. They found David walking nearby and arrested him without a struggle. He showed no resistance. Just like that, it was over for him. For Sandra, it had already been over. When David Okafor was taken into custody that day, prosecutors in Fulton County wasted no time. He was charged with open murder, a charge that, under Georgia law, allows a jury to decide between first-degree murder, which carries the possibility of life without parole, and second-degree murder, which still means decades behind bars. He was also charged with felony firearm offenses related to using a weapon during the crime. They held him without bail. There would be no easy way out of this. The months that followed were filled with the slow, heavy machinery of the legal system, pretrial hearings, evidence gathering, witness statements, forensic analysis. Prosecutors built their case carefully. Sandra's family waited. They would have to keep waiting. David's trial began in June 2025, nearly 2 years after Sandra's death. Over the course of several days, the prosecution laid out their evidence. First responders testified. Officers described the scene. Witnesses spoke about what they heard and saw that morning. Prosecutors walked the jury through the timeline, the divorce papers, the protection order, the return to the home, the shots fired. The defense tried to paint a different picture, offering interpretations of David's state of mind and actions that could shift the outcome under the open murder charge. The jury was given the weight of that decision. And then, after days of deliberation, something heartbreaking happened. The jury could not agree. They were deadlocked, split, unable to reach a unanimous verdict. On the 5th day of deliberations, they told the judge they were stuck. The judge had no choice. He declared a mistrial. A mistrial. That word probably hit Sandra's family like a punch to the chest. They had waited 2 years. They had sat through testimony and evidence and painful memories dragged into a courtroom. And at the end of it all, no verdict. No closure. The case was not over. For David, a mistrial meant the prosecution could try again. And try again they did. After the mistrial, prosecutors made a decision. Rather than put Sandra's family through another lengthy trial, another round of testimony, another wait, another risk of deadlock, they entered into plea negotiations with David's legal team. In August 2025, David Okafor agreed to plead guilty to second-degree murder and the felony firearms charge. He admitted what he had done. He could no longer hide behind the possibility of a jury failing to decide. On September 3, 2025, 2 years and just a few days after Sandra's death, a Fulton County judge sentenced David Okafor to 25 to 50 years in prison for second-degree murder, plus an additional 2 years for the firearm conviction, to be served back-to-back with the murder sentence. 25 to 50 years. He will be a very old man before he ever has the chance to walk free. And even then, that is a possibility, not a guarantee. At the sentencing hearing, Sandra's father stood up in that courtroom and spoke directly to David. He described what his daughter's death had done to their family. He talked about the children she left behind, 3 adult children who now have to carry the weight of losing their mother to violence. He talked about what was stolen from them. His words were entered into the official court record, a permanent part of this case's history. And that matters, because Sandra deserves to be more than a case number. She deserves to be remembered as a person who loved and was loved, who fought to protect herself, who did everything the right way, and who has still failed. This case is one that domestic violence advocates have pointed to when talking about what they call the separation danger period, the window of time when someone tries to formally leave an abusive partner. Studies show that this is often the most dangerous time for survivors. When abusers feel that control slipping away, some of them respond with terrifying violence. Sandra served divorce papers on a Wednesday. By Thursday morning, she was dead. In Atlanta and across Georgia, this case sparked conversations about how we protect people who are brave enough to leave, about whether protective orders are enough, about what communities, courts, and neighbors can do to make sure that walking away from violence doesn't cost someone their life. Sandra Okafor was 38 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. She made the right decision to leave. She deserved to make it out safely. She deserved to rebuild. She deserved to be here. And if you are watching this and you are in a situation that feels unsafe, please know that the bravest thing you can do is reach out for help before it gets to this point. There are people who want to help you. You do not have to face this alone. And you deserve to make it out. Rest in peace, Sandra. We remember you. Follow for more stories.